This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Janice Pons. I am the host on this podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. I am so glad you're here. Welcome. Listen, we are going to continue on this amazing journey that we've been on. We the people, we've been focused on this specific path related to gaining and understanding about our nation. A lot of people don't even understand the nation. I am fascinated as I learn about the Constitution and the amendments and the articles and the branches of government. I have been learning so much, and I get on here and I talk about it. This flag, our great symbol connected to our amazing nation, is important to me. This seal reminds us to pray for the president, the importance of praying for the executive branch of our nation, who enforces the laws. Yeah. The judicial interprets the laws. The legislative, they make the laws. We need to be praying for these people. 2 Chronicles 7:14. I've been focusing on that going into 2025. It says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and heal their land. Listen, my people, I love that. Who are my people? God says in his word, my people called by his name conveys a specific group of people that are recognized. We're identified. We're on the same page. We have a specific name. We're called by his name. We're reflecting shared values. We have a shared allegiance in our nation. Those people, we the people, I'm praying for the ones that are digging out the hole. The 265,900,000 Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet. Some of them lost their houses. Some of them, it was horrible what happened in 2024, but it's a new year. So we want them to have prosperity. We want ends to meet. That was 78% of working Americans. We want them to thrive and prosper. Lord God, help us all as we dig out of the hole that we will put in 2024, paying for the health care, the housing, the food, the child care, in some cases, the child care, and monthly money card of illegal immigrants, while Americans didn't even have money to get gas. They were taking that out of our paycheck. Automatic deductions, oh yes. Could barely make ends meet while we were taking care of all them and could barely make ends meet or buy groceries. Listen, we're going in a different direction. 79%, 80% of Americans felt the country was going in the wrong direction. The majority of the citizens, we said, look, enough is enough. We've had enough of this. And we spoke loud and clear at the polls in 2024. And in light of all the dynamics being presented to us, I've always said, who needs to be in charge? We got to do something here. Who needs to be the leader? Does it matter who's in the White House? Does it matter who's on Capitol Hill? Well, as some of our fellow Americans and our brothers and sisters, even in our families, our blood relatives, many are struggling to accept it, but it is what it is. We are where we are. So we're going to look at some dynamics as we continue to flow together as one. Donald Trump was elected as the president. We're still walking some things out. J.D. Vance was the vice president-elect. We're walking some things out. We have a GOP trifecta. I love saying that word, trifecta. Yeah. 3 areas. popular vote, electoral vote, won the Senate and the House of Representatives. Yes, yes, yes. All of these things evoke so many strong Americans having certain strong emotions. We got strong Americans with strong emotions, and they're our fellow Americans. Some are not happy, some are thrilled. I'm thrilled. Some people are still in shock. They can't figure it out. They're in denial. We've talked about it. I've used that acronym many times. DENIAL. Don't even notice I am lying. DENIAL. Don't even notice I'm lying. But one thing that we can help our Americans to do, us flowing together as one, is to learn how to lose in a politically charged America. We talked about how to win. We talked about how Laura Trump put together a 3-point winning strategy. Losing in a politically charged America. Some people are sore losers. They are. They don't know how to lose. So, because it evokes so many emotions, from a clinical perspective, we're going to look at losing with dignity. Losing with dignity in America. So, as we move forward, Democratic National Committee official Lindy Lai called Vice President Harris's bid for the White House listen to what she said, a $1 billion disaster following her loss to Donald Trump in the 2024 presidential election. The truth is this: just as an end epidemic disaster, this is what Lindy said. The DNC Financial Committee, their National Finance Committee, she said this: they're $20 million or $18 million in debt. She said, that was the debt that was incurred. And they're throwing all kind of numbers out post them looking at this and that, but they still asking for money. They were asking for money. Kamala Harris was sending out emails asking for money, and they was the DNC was telling her, stop asking for money. It's incredible, and so much money was raised. And this is what Lindy said. She said, I have friends that I have to be accountable to and explain what happened because I told them that it was a margin of error race. That's what we were all told. The strategist said that Harris's campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, promised all of us that Harris was going to win. She even put videos out saying Harris will win. We're sorting through this because people still trying to figure it out. They are still stunned. But Lindy Lai said, I believed her. My donors believed her. There were high dollar donors that believed all this, and they wrote massive checks. And they just feel like they were misled. They were. Following Donald Trump's runaway triumphant victory, Democrats have started to clash over the strategy the party deployed and who should be blamed for the election's outcome. Listen, you process and you metabolize strategy, skills, and tools. You look at it. You got to name. You got to explain. You got to understand what happened. Some argue the party did not move to the left enough to satisfy the base, while centrists argue the party moved too far left and spooked away the more moderate backers in the swing states. Harris lost all 7 battleground states, lost them. Some within the party have said that Democrats should restart and begin focusing more on messaging and to better assess the temperature of the electorate. Lindy Lai said that even on the night of the election, she heard Democrats expressing confidence in Harris's hopes of winning the election, something Lai herself did not fully understand. She said this, she said, "Are you privy to internal numbers that I'm not seeing?" Because she said, "I studied this so carefully and just wasn't seeing any basis for that level of confidence." She said, "What are y'all talking about? Why were they greasing? Why were they greasing the pockets of celebrities and rich people and pushing a certain agenda? While that was going on, they forgot about the people. Why? 78% of Americans have been living paycheck to paycheck, barely making ends meet in 2024. They didn't focus on those people. So people walked away saying they don't care. And Trump showed that he did. As pointed out before, their focus was on women's rights while they ignored women being exposed to men in their showers in the military, boys in bathrooms in schools, tampon Tim coming out like he was, pumped up. People were, what are you talking about? Tampons in the boys' bathroom. Listen, it insulted people. Women being pulverized in strength in sporting events. Voting biological men to be woman of the year. People were insulted. Ignoring that a child is really a person. Someone says it was just a clump of cells. Ask Scott Peterson if it was a clump of cells when he was charged with double murder with his pregnant wife, Lacey. If you doubt it, answer that question for me. This is why y'all keep talking about that double murder. Telling people, trying to convince us that we have to agree that a biological man can put on a dress, and that just makes him a woman because they said it. People didn't agree. But you wanted to make that the top agenda that you were pushing. People didn't agree. They ignored the concerns of parents showing up at school board meetings as they were upset that their elementary school students were being exposed to a process of sexual indoctrination with a specific agenda. So, in essence, as me personally have experienced insults and name calling, I'm left to conclude that so many people are sore losers. That brings us to our clinical perspective tonight regarding how to lose with dignity. There is not one bone in my body that would hurt anyone. I can disagree, and I can even joke. We can laugh and we can disagree, but I'm not going to hurt. And there have been hurtful tactics perpetrated against Americans, and it's not right. So, in learning how to lose with dignity instead of harming people, what would happen if people became aware of their emotions? Think about what they experience and try to understand how they're currently responding to it. If they're angry, asking themselves, why are you angry? If they're disappointed, ask yourself, why what you hoped to achieve. And before you accept or control your emotions, you have to understand them. If you're going to accept them and control them, you got to understand them. So I call it, you got to put a language to it. The therapeutic process says, put a language to it. Name, explain, process, and metabolize. What would happen if you think about how you would have felt if you had not been defeated? Compare the two states and consider what remains the same between the two outcomes. At the end of the day, listen, we're all Americans. At the end of the day, we should want our children to achieve. At the end of the day, we should want America to get back to a number one ranking in the world academically. What would happen if you wrote your thoughts down? What would happen if you spoke to a trusted friend or family member about your feelings? What would happen if you knew how to best process emotions? That's what I'm talking about. Name, explain, process, and metabolize strategy, skills, and tools. Then you position yourself to come to terms with the situation and not bottle it up and take it out in passive aggressive ways on those people that you say you love. What would happen if you validate yourself? Tell yourself that there is no way to feel wrong. Well, I mean, no emotion is inherently good or bad. You feel what you feel. Feelings just simply are. It's healthy to embrace them. It's healthy to acknowledge them. Acknowledge the fact that whatever you feel is entirely acceptable. It's okay that you feel that way. But is it okay to hurt somebody? Bear in mind that while it's important to embrace emotions, it may be unwise to follow certain feelings and act them out, such as anger or self-loathing. Keep a perspective. What would happen if we kept a perspective? Listen, when Biden won, we kept perspective. We didn't go down burning things down and hurting people. No, we didn't like it. But we don't burn businesses down and tear up stuff. You may not even be able to prevent the defeat, but you can control your reaction towards it. What would happen if we learn how to take a deep breath? If it can help a woman in labor, might it help us if we get overwhelmed with anxiety and, yes, even anger? What would happen if, as fellow Americans, we tried to be level-headed, to be as level-headed as possible, reminding ourselves that what has happened, and that we can't change it? Would this attitude allow us to be flexible and adaptable and find ourselves better at handling negativity and loss in future situations and not slamming people? Remember that life goes on, and one defeat may not be as important in the larger scheme of things, because at the end of the day, all of us are going to sleep and get up and go to the bathroom and put on our clothes and try to make ends meet and try to make our children successful. That's my heart. That's my heart. That's why I get on this podcast and talk about the things that I do. I want us to be empowered. I want to provoke thought, bring awareness, and support each other as we look at maybe we need interventions. And if you decided you need the therapeutic process, you can go to JanicePons.com, go to the resource page, and I've already mapped out how you can pick out a therapist. It's already laid out. They're already there. And people have done that and have just like soared, just absolutely soared with empowerment. What about this, guys? What would happen if we just didn't take ourselves too seriously? I have dealt with some situations. I was like, wait a minute. Where are you going with this in your interaction with me right now? You're just taking this too seriously. A situation can always get worse, but consider whether there is a silver lining that you just haven't seen yet. Try to find the humor, maybe humor, or the silver lining around the cloud in what has happened to keep a smile on your face, even though it may be hard for you to crack a natural smile. You may find that the situation may even be funny in some spots if you just step back from your personal investment of slamming someone and running somebody in the ground. What would happen if you let go of the defeat? When you fail, your emotions can distort your perspective. Do not linger on what happened. Or you can let go of the defeat and continue to defeat yourself. What would happen if you let it go and God is just wearing you out? I just see people, they're just wearing themselves out and they're trying to wear everybody else out. Just wear out. Wow. And become mean, vindictive. I am not mean. I've been treated in some very mean manners. And I forgive and I love. You might feel yourself welling up with anger, frustration, and indignation. So what are you going to do? Show hatred towards your family and to those that you say that you love? Feelings that, in case, will only feed themselves? What would happen if we learn how to recognize these non-accepting emotions, catch hold of them, and cast them aside? Are people going to continually expose themselves to you being abusive towards them? Are they? Think about it. What would happen if you move on by letting go and move on from being hurtful? Letting go will release you from your defeat. Is that possible? While the quest for retribution will only tie you to the defeat. Let go of self-judgment. I didn't do enough. We didn't tell the black folk enough, and we didn't tell the women. Oh my goodness. Accept that failure is merely a part of life. Sometimes everything is not about we were black or they did it because we were white. People have and will always deal with defeat. It's a matter of perspective. If your component is being a poor sport, don't lash out. It doesn't change the fact that they won. It only damages your image. And this is something that God spoke to my heart. And he said one time, he said, look, it's their issue, not yours, and you need to refuse to own it. Wow. Thank you, Lord. I accept that. Check. I got it. What would happen if you lose with grace? Show respect to whomever or whatever has defeated you. What would happen if you're just graceful? Shake hands with your opponent and congratulate them. Job well done. Whether you lost a fight, a debate, or a competition, try not to resort to pettiness. I'm going to let y'all get them. Ganging up on people. I try not to do that. You won't be able to reverse the results by complaining about them or by acting bitter towards the winner or targeting up and attacking people. What would happen if we were polite and as gracious as possible? What would happen if we thank them for their time and congratulate them on their skills and their win? If you're a gracious loser, the victor will likely feel uncomfortable boasting about their win in front of you. It's like, gosh, well, wow. Okay, I won. Everybody knows it. This changes the situation from a winner-loser game to a moment between two people who respect each other and have just finished, quite possibly, something that they learned from. What would happen if we don't let judgment get to us? If others will judge you for being defeated, let them do so. You know who they are. You know who you are. And do we need to keep justifying ourselves so someone who doesn't know our heart, that you're trying to convince them of who you are? Baby, if they don't know, look, God told me, he said, look, Janice, listen to me. He said, it's their issue. Their hatred towards you is their issue, not yours, and you need to refuse to own it. That set me free. I had to learn how to center myself. Learning how to walk in love with class. It gives you a bigger victory than any win could. Others have a responsibility to encourage everyone to participate in terms of, that's what team members do. If your opponent is mocking you, that means they're worried that you might be motivated by your loss. What would happen if you ignore them? Yeah, ignore. I can put you right over there and not participate in the toxicity. The more you listen to them, the more you accept their words as fact. And we have a higher truth. And that truth is walking in love. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to hook up with your lies and stand around and be abused. Look, what would happen if we do not lay blame? If you blame another person, another group, or set of circumstances for your defeat, maybe you will keep yourself from accepting what happened. If you blame yourself, you will make yourself miserable, and you can make other people miserable if they allow you to. You can miss out on an opportunity to actually grow from the experience. Try to make the situation exactly as it is. What happened, happened. No amount of blaming is going to reverse it. Think about what happened. How are you going to face it? Did your team communicate well? Whatever the case is, address it as you move on. Focus on admiring how well your opponent played or participated or ran in the election or whatever the competition is, rather than your own defeat. Praise them that they were clever. They worked hard. We can learn. If your opponent cheated, wait until you've calmed down. Talk about it to whoever's in charge. Don't make a scene right then. There's a timing and a place for everything. You may ruin your case if you act rashly. Some things may have to be worked out in court. Yeah. Listen, what have we looked at tonight? We're looking at, sometimes you got to admit you were wrong. If you lost a debate or an argument, you got to admit what you did wrong. You can improve your image by admitting that you were wrong and you were defeated. Consider apologizing. Really apologizing. I was wrong. We were wrong. We targeted you. That was not right. Take responsibility, acknowledging your mistake, explaining how you were wrong, admitting it, giving a language to it, considering your mistakes. Losing credibility is not a good thing. But if you lose it, what can you do to go back and get it? Try to learn from what happened. These are powerful things. What would happen if we teach this to our children? If you finish and reflect and you learn, stand up tall, move on with a smile, hold your head up high. You haven't been defeated. You grow, you learn. You carry yourself in the same way any other time. Yeah, suppose we teach this to our children. Try to take it as a premise that failure can have a role in your journey. Ask yourself, what was the purpose of this? What was I supposed to get from this? Think about why you failed, what you could have done differently. Improve on your mistakes. Think back on what happened. Look for lessons to be learned. What would happen if we did that? The more you focus on your next win, maybe the better you may feel about the last defeat. Not all winners have won their first match. If you don't accept defeat gracefully, you may end up acting rashly and bitterly. People take notice of how you handle your loss and whether you're mature. What have we looked at tonight? Where do we go from here? We're looking at where do we go from here? One thing that may be warranted for us to move forward in effectiveness in our great nation is to pay attention and look at learning to lose. How can we lose effectively in a politically charged America? And our clinical perspective is losing with dignity. What would happen if we teach our youth how to do this? I respectfully submit that it will help us to be more cohesive as a nation, because we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remember, we're going somewhere. It's expecting us when we get there. I'm telling you, we'll go to new heights as we take these types of concepts and talk about them and process them and let them drive us as a nation instead of all this nitpicking, tearing down stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm not about that. I'm going to point out things that we need to think about. That's what I do on my social media platform. But I'm going to point us towards intervention. We're going to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point each other together, support each other, love each other, hold each other accountable as we go from, yes, destruction to dignity, clinical perspectives, spiritual truth. I will see you next week. God bless you. I love you. Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
We are one power, strength is ours, liberty, been set free, education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.